Namaste, Happy Jack family. Welcome to our special episode today, where I, Hanna von Hafenbredel, co-founder of Happy Jack Yoga, am your host today. And I'm delighted to share with you some of the hero's journeys of someone we really love. They are some local yogis that I'm gonna introduce to you. Well, the husband of the local yogis, both the husband and wife have done our hero's journey. So when I discuss both journeys together, that's why I speak in plural. But really, we're here today with Chris Piva, who is a past graduate and a dear friend to Jack and myself. He's even written a book, which I actually have here, and I'll grab it in a moment. But Chris, welcome to the Happy Jack Yoga podcast. How are you doing today? Let's see to mute you or unmute you. Here we
Hey,
go.
there I am. It's working.
Yeah,
I'm doing wonderful. This is fun.
great.
So happy to be here.
Thanks for being willing to come here and share about things that happened many years ago by now, right?
Yeah.
When did you do your hero's journey?
2019.
2019. That's a long time ago. How about
Yeah.
Mindy, your wife?
Mindy, I believe, was 2015.
Sweet. I
Yeah.
remember her as a living mermaid. So blissful and like someone who is so loving and present and caring. And the same thing could be said about you. Oftentimes when you meet people, like you think like opposite attract, but the two of you, you're both of you so very heart-centered people. So it's been such a beautiful gift. And every time I think of you, like we don't meet in the daily, even if you don't live far from where I am in Canada,
hmm
we don't meet that often. But when I think about you guys, or when I see you on social media, I always feel like like the bliss heart, like the heart
Yeah.
emoji that has this sparkles on it.
Well, when we do meet in person, like at the yoga festival in Toronto, it was like it's magical. Like time didn't elapse. It was like we just picked up from where we left off last. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, it tends to be like that. So let's hear, Chris, can you share a little bit about your background, like where you're from and what led you to take a 200-hour teacher training?
Okay. So I grew up in Hamilton, Ontario, and I was the middle of like three brothers. And I found myself always being this helper. I was like, my mom would ask for help in the kitchen. I would drop what I was doing and I'd go. My dad would say, "Hey, can you help me fix this thing in the garage?" I'd drop what I was doing and I would go. That's how I found value was like acts of service. So I'm like finishing high school. My mom says, "What do you want to do?" And I used to love watching Rescue 911 with William Shatner, this ambulance fire. And I was like, oh, I could do that. So I signed up, became working as, or started working as a paramedic, but met Mindy in college in Toronto in the paramedic program. So we moved up to Muskoka in 2002, I believe. And we started to do this job. And it was fun. There was lots of adrenaline, and I definitely was seeking that, the rush and that those feel good chemicals that I got from helping others. But at a certain point in time, it started to kind of wean or wane, and it started to get like more of a nuisance than a feel good. So in 2008, Mindy had her last call as a paramedic, and she came home that night, and I was like, who is this? Like, she had changed in an instant, her personality. And I didn't know what post-traumatic stress disorder was. She didn't know what it was, and she was the first to be knowingly diagnosed in Muskoka ambulance at that point. So Mindy, luckily, she was like this innate seeker, and she started to do her own research. Get Mala's crawling all over me. So she started to do a lot of research and did a lot of reading.
Did,
Started going to therapy.
sorry, how did you notice that she had changed and how did she notice that she had changed?
So it was. her inability to like regulate emotion right
Mm,
away. Like it was lots of crying, lots of tears, and like bouts of like anger and frustration. Like the one example, we went to the Jack Johnson concert at Burles Creek the week after she had gone off. And after the concert, everybody was trying to get out, and it's just this like jam-packed cars. And there were people playing their music and playing soccer off to the right, but the music was loud. She was going like, she was like, you know how sweet Mindy is? She
yeah.
was like, I'm gonna go crazy if you don't tell them to stop that music. And I was like, so it was the first time I said, Mindy, stop it. I'm like, you're gonna get us in trouble. And she realized like, oh, okay, something's off here. And then like started to get help. So it wasn't like this kind, sweet Mindy that we all know. It was like, whoa, you are intense right now. So
Yeah.
there was,
So just to kind of understand, this means that in her line of work, she'd been so stressed that she lost her ability to regulate her emotions and her nervous system and her personality. And as a result of that, she stepped away from her career.
she was basically forced out of it based on her inability to self-regulate. And there's actually like structures in the brain that get changed physically. Like it's not just like, oh, it's all in your head, but yeah, it's wild how fast. Like I
Yeah.
was shocked how fast.
Yeah, we forget how the brain is malleable
Hmm.
all through our whole life. Like typically we hear that the brain changes and evolves until our early or mid 20s, right? And so forth. But now it turns out that it's not true. Research shows that the brain keeps on changing throughout the whole arc of our life.
Yeah,
Like,
which is fantastic news if you find yourself diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder or really anything.
right.
Yeah.
So back to the the course of that night when you noticed that and you both noticed that Mindy wasn't being herself,
Hmm.
then what happened?
Well, she started going to treatment and she started to get the help she needed. And there was a whole
What's the
process.
treatment? Yeah.
So the first step is you go and you find like you go to your doctor, your family physician, and they basically say, yes, you have symptoms, but you're not diagnosable up until a month. So you have to have the symptoms for a month in order to be diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. And they gave her a referral to a psychiatrist and a psychologist. And then she started that process. So you go weekly to those sessions. They give you a bunch of pharmaceuticals to try and help with self-regulating, with sleep, and it's a process. It's a really long process, and that's the thing I think. Like as first responders, we want to fix everything, and you want to fix it right away. But all of a sudden, now you're left with this. Okay, I'm the one that has an injury. I want to fix it right away, but I can't. It's a process,
Right.
which is really it's really challenging when you're battling and when you're up against it.
Yeah. And was it one incident in her line of work or many?
It was one for Mindy. Yeah, it was the last call she was on. And like Mindy and I, for like a while, like people would say, well, what was it? And they were curious. And now we've learned to say, well, it was the worst thing that I've seen. So why would I put that in your head? So now
Yeah.
you have to process it,
Yeah.
which is, it's cool not have to like, I don't
Yeah.
want to slime everybody else, but it was awful.
Yeah. But also it can be re-traumatizing and like, for you to have to discuss that with the left and right.
Hmm.
But I think the answer, what you just said, the worst thing that I've ever experienced is what happened. That should cover it pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
And your imagination can do the rest.
Yeah. And then it doesn't have to,
Yeah.
like you
Exactly.
said. Yeah. So Mindy then started treatment, but then you mentioned she also started doing her own research. What
And
did
she
she?
found that yoga was very beneficial with people with post-traumatic stress disorder. So then she got online and found Happy Jack Yoga. So she was like, Chris, I'm going to do this. I'm going to sign up and I'm going to learn how to do yoga so it will help me with self-regulation. So at that point when Mindy signed up, I I think that was 2015. So in 2012, that's when I went off. So in 2012, I had my last call, and then I started the whole process. So I started seeing Mindy get better as I was back at the bottom.
Wow. So
And
is it like with burnout, they say, for example, that it takes so long to unburn out to gain yourself back or your energy back? It seems to take longer than even a year, but it can maybe it becomes a thing you regulate. Like now talking about burnout, I don't know about PTSD per se, but I've read that it is an incredibly long process, whereas we would again like to just diagnose, fix it, get back to life.
mm,
It sounds like for you guys too, it was a very long process to get, even first to get your final call and then the process of healing.
mhm. And like looking back, I know that we had been accumulating all this trauma, but we were in this environment where it was weak if you were like expressing that, oh, I'm having anxiety when I'm showing up at work. Like I have diarrhea every time I have a shift coming up. Like that's a problem. So we were in this sick culture, and you don't really recognize how unhealthy it is until you step out of it. And then once we got out of it, we realized, whoa, this is like very negative. It's not good for self-regulation. Now we have this chance to heal. So I recognize now that like the very first call that I did that was bad when I was like working for my first 3 months, I probably should have went off work then. But I put in 12 more years on top of that just because that's what everybody did. So I think like to try and heal it in a year, it would be really difficult. So you have to learn how to be patient and trust the process and let your body do what it needs to do and really create that environment that it needs in order for it to heal.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
that's where, what's that?
no, I was thinking just in general, like it must be really difficult because the environment is like somebody has to go and help. So it might as well be me. And then it's normalized in that environment. And however, maybe there would have, like now with all of your experience, and we'll get to that later, probably there's other ways to deal with trauma, like you're, it sounds like you're saying now, like maybe a little bit sooner, but at the time maybe we don't know. And then now you're in a, looking back now, I know it's many years now, but like thinking about the whole process that you and your wife both went through, there must be so many aspects. So for sure it might take more than a year to
Mhm.
realize the impact. But then almost like when you're in an abusive relationship, I don't know if you've ever been, but when there's a breakup, you know, in the moment, you might not know what the consequence, what actually happened. When looking back, you can notice, how did I get myself into all of those places, and how is it that this all happened? There's a grieving process,
Mhm.
and that then will spring to new insights. But for the two of you, was it, and this might not be like somewhere we need to discuss very much, but because both of you, like in one way you can understand each other, but then your own processes weren't synced. Like Mindy had to do her healing and start her therapies first, and then it took quite many years before you had your final call. How did that all get synced? And you had a child there too in the mix. How did you as a family navigate the
was
healing process?
it was chaos. It was survival. We were in survival mode.
Mm.
From the time she was diagnosed, Graydon was born a year later. That was challenging. I had to take time off work, 9 months paternity leave, just to make sure that they were safe. and we survived. We did what we needed to do. And we avoided a lot of things like that made us uncomfortable. And then, yeah, I got diagnosed and we had to figure it all out again and how to adjust and adapt. But I think that's the one analogy that I love is it's the manure of life. So if somebody shows up at your front door right now and drops off a whole pile of manure on a dump truck on your driveway, you can sit in your driveway and look at it and complain and suffer and just say, wow, this is a lot of shit. Like, what am I ever going to do with this? So much. And it smells and it's awful. But then you can also say, well, I'm going to go get a wheelbarrow and a shovel and I'm going to make some sweet gardens and I'm going to grow some fruits and vegetables and nurture that. So when you're in it, it's very hard to do that. But then once you step outside of it with like self-regulation tools, you can turn off that like reptilian brain and you can start to get into your like frontal lobe and really start to use that as fertilizer for growth. And I think there's no like fast forward. It has to just happen as you're ready. Because I think if somebody came to me in 2012 and said, hey, yoga's going to help you, breath work is going to be the be all end all for you. It's going to help you like change your diet, get off of things, not be addicted to this, not be like this irritable monster. I would have been like, whatever, because I wasn't ready. I didn't suffer enough yet. So I needed to reach that like depth of suffering to hit kind of bottom to realize, okay, I don't want to be here. This is very uncomfortable. And then I realized I had a choice that I could choose to move through it and heal from it and make myself stronger, which is really cool.
Yeah, it is beautiful when we can take the manure of life and make something out of it. And it is a choice, like you say, but sometimes when we're in that when the reptilian brain is activated, we don't understand what's going on. We
Mm.
don't know that there's another way, just because our reality seems, like you said, like just survival mode.
Hmm.
It's hard to have a higher thinking in or have access to higher thinking when we're just surviving on instincts. But I guess the nature of life also, on the other hand, the way it's designed is that if we can pull ourselves out of those environments slowly, there is going to be a shift.
Hmm.
So, what was the shift? Mindy found yoga and took the training. I'm afraid at the time it wasn't the most trauma sensitive training, but still the yoga did its magic when she joined Happy Jack Yoga.
Hmm.
And maybe we need to have her on once as well. Now we're curious to meet her, I bet.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So she took her training. What did you notice about Mindy when she did yoga and breath work?
So from like the personality shift that I saw, where it was like that irritable, like poor sleep, lots of sleep disturbances, like that reactivity, I saw all of a sudden she started to like calm or mute those. And then she became that like soft, loving energy that I like remember. So I like witnessed this transformation and even her diet changed. And I was like, this is definitely cool. But I still had to watch that for like 2 years of evolution before I was ready, before I was like, okay, I want that for myself now. Because I kept it away. I thought yoga is like for women. I thought you had to wear stretchy pants and be really flexible. I had all these biases that were put into my mind until I realized I realized no, it's not. It's not that at all. It's community and it's this union with like the universe. I'm like, what? And then it just once I surrendered to that and I was ready, like I was all in. I was like, I want to get myself well again. I don't want to suffer through life and not be well. I want to be well for my son. I want to be well for my wife. I want to be well for my family and for myself. So it was a choice. It was a conscious choice for sure.
Right. And you mentioned how ever since you were very young, you felt like it was like almost sounds like the way you operate in the world is to help others. And then when self self-care becomes also, like you mentioned now, it's something you did for your family as well, not just
Hmm.
for yourself, but sometimes it's difficult to help ourselves. So as long as it's for others, we can do it and
Yeah.
we go to great lengths. But to come to the point where I'm willing to help myself, it sounds like we have to suffer oftentimes a long time and get to a really difficult place before it clicks and we go like,
Hmm.
oh, I have a choice. And another thing that I heard recently that I thought was really well said was self-care isn't, what it's marketed to be. It's not the bubble baths and the manicures and massages, but it's the difficult things like going to therapy or doing the things that actually require what you're describing now, like the tipping point where we're willing to do something for ourselves that is a little bit hard. And maybe the surrendering act can be a little bit hard,
Hmm.
right? Where the impact is paradigm shifting eventually. So Mindy took the training. You noticed how she got back to her beautiful self. And then I assume you must have been her student when she was practice teaching. Was that a way for you to learn yoga, or did you guys not do that together?
I remember like learning certain poses, and I was like, this was when like my ego was still inflamed. I was like, okay, like this, like I could do um, peacock. And
Wow.
Mindy was like, wow. She's like, this is incredible. Or I could do like a handstand or a headstand. And she was like super impressed. So it filled this ego, which made me feel good. But looking back, I was like, but it was like this evolution of me where it got me interested into yoga. So like I remember doing my yoga teacher training, and one of the guys there at lunch just cracks open a beer, and I watched Jack, and Jack just was like, that was a first. So like no judgment, just acceptance. Like this is where you are on your path. That's okay. And this is where I was on my path. That's okay. And just meeting that with love. And that was something that shifted in me where I was like, okay, I don't have to be as judgmental and critical on myself or outwardly as well. And it really started to challenge like all of that programming I got from childhood.
Mm, I think that is beautiful. And I think the only way for any type of real evolution is accepting and being honest with where we are and not making it wrong. Because a lot of, I would say, in the yoga world and in the spiritual world, there's this putting people on pedestals and like protocols are being put on. Like, if you do this, then you have no more problems. But
Hmm.
we all know that doesn't really sound holistic and healthy and grounded and like integrative, like something that we can actually work with. And so that's maybe why it takes a while before we really get to the true potential that lies in yoga when we no longer put others on pedestals, meaning like they should this, that, or ourselves.
Hmm.
And that is also quite humbling, to be compassionate towards ourselves. And because we've been kind of programmed and socialized, I think, to kind of aim, always do better and compete with ourselves and others. We're not socialized, or I wasn't at least, to think that this is good enough.
Hmm.
And I see that a lot in trainings, and it comes up a lot, things that are related to self-esteem and who we think we are when we are in the yoga teacher training, because we put ourselves into the uncomfortable position of being either in front of a camera, and then we have to edit it. So we see it now that it's all of it is online. We have to see ourselves and be okay with that and be super compassionate about all the things that we said or didn't say, that we know we should have said differently because we are practicing this or that or the other tool of self, how do we call it? Like authentic self-expression, full self-expression. So we know what it ideally would sound like or look like, but it's the perfection of that is an illusion. And so at the time when you guys did the training, we did them in person, which was also really beautiful. And I missed some aspects of that. But the same things are true in that when we're in the room, we're next to each other, it's hard not to compare who can do a headstand. Like our ego, like you mentioned, it can be easily kind of tricked into comparison because that's how we are socialized.
Hmm.
But when we learn how to hold the present moment kindly and find I guess, the bliss in each moment, in each setup, then it's not just something in the future. It's not something that we work towards like we often do in the spiritual settings. We're always, and it's good to try to practice good principles like honesty and self-regulation and authenticity, but it's an art. And if it doesn't include oneself, then it's not holistic, it's not grounded, it's not somehow integrated in how we treat others. We can't give what we don't have. If I don't have true um, ability to hold my own complexities, like you were saying in the beginning, when Mindy was having difficulty regulating her emotions, that was the first sign that she wasn't able to do her work anymore. And she had to reinvent her whole life.
Hmm.
And then now in yoga, we're practicing the opposite. We're like, oh, okay, I have to hold myself, my whole, everything that I've ever been. The most beautiful and the most difficult experiences have molded me into this thing that is sitting here in front of this computer, talking with you, Chris, and breathing. It can be um, an interesting journey. It can be really tricky and easy to bypass things. And sometimes we need to. But if we can integrate it, then we can hold space for each other
Hmm.
and build a new life. So you guys both did the training. What would you, now that you look back at your hero's journey, like what were the things you learned about yourself as a result of being in the 200-hour that we call the hero's journey with Happy Jack and the cohort that you were with, other than acceptance, because you just described how you and everyone were, you know, unconditionally holding each other's experiences.
Hmm. The one thing that I share, so like now I teach this breath work to veterans and first responders, and the one thing I share with them, like I have this Coles Notes version of like how I got here, and I say when I signed up for this 200-hour yoga teacher training at Happy Jack Yoga, the first day, Saturday morning of the start of this like 2-hour practice was like 20 minutes of breath work. And I say, after that 20 minutes of breath work, that was the first time in my life I had ever felt like in my body without needing something external to stimulate that. So I didn't need alcohol. I didn't need cannabis. I didn't need a pharmaceutical. I didn't need anything adrenaline inducing. Like I used to ride my mountain bike or dirt bike really fast. None of it. Like I got it through breath work. And that was like my aha moment. Like there's something magical here. And the cool part about it was I was able to take this identity that I had gathered about like I am this paramedic, this is my job, and I lost that. But then I was able to take the knowledge and experience I had gathered and combine it with breathing. So I was like, I know the body, and now I know or I'm learning about how breathing changes the body, the physiology, all the chemicals and emotions. Now I'm gonna put this to work and see if I can actually like get it to heal this body and regulate. And then that's when I started experimenting. I was like, I'm going to learn all these breaths. I'm going to practice them like all the time. And when I was at my worst, I was doing a breath practice 4 times a day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, bedtime. And that was just so that I could downregulate enough to function for a couple hours. Then my stress would build. Then I downregulate again. And I did that 4 times a day and then just before bed, just so I could like just be again without being that reactive monster that I turned into.
Mm,
It was hard
wow.
work. It was hard
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, you'd think breathing isn't that hard, but it is when you use it intentionally and when it impacts the way it impacts your whole personality, your whole day. It's incredible. And in fact, in yoga, even the yoga poses, really, there's instructions how to breathe as we go through the yoga poses. So we begin with breath work, which we call pranayama. And there's so many ways, so many different exercises, just like there are yoga poses
Mm-hmm.
in breath work too. There's so many different activities that we can do, easy ones and advanced ones, and those that upregulate and those that downregulate. And that's how, like, sometimes, we hear yoga for this and yoga for that and breath for this and that, but it's because it's good for everything. Breath work and yoga help regulate most of the human conditions that we could ever find ourselves in. So that's fascinating how the breath work um, was so powerful for you. And then it became your yoga, it became your tool,
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like.
And now there's a, have you ever heard of the Muse? Muse? It's
No.
like a headband wraps around your ears and attaches to your phone through an app. And it's
Mm,
like a, helps you learn how to meditate. So that sat on our shelf for years. Mindy had bought it, never used it. And then one day we learned that it would basically tell you what your brain's doing, like what, like brain waves you're experiencing based on each breath. So I started playing with it. And now, like the one example is like a rainforest setting. So you can hear like storm and rain and noise and wind. That's when you're like right now. So we're actually focused, we're concentrating, but we're not concentrating on our body. We're like outward like focus. As soon as you bring your awareness to like one gentle breath in and out, all of a sudden it switches, the rain stops, the storm stops, and then birds start chirping. So the birds are your reward that like, okay, you found this meditative state now. You're in that like parasympathetic nervous system stimulation. So I show people that how you can switch. One breath can be fight or flight, one breath can be that rest and digest. And they're like, and I'm like, yeah, and you take 15 or 17 to 21,000 breaths per day. So how many of those are stimulating the stress response or how many are stimulating that relaxation? And then you have a choice. You're like, do you want to be stressed or do you want to be relaxed?
yeah, that's amazing.
It's the
That's how
coolest.
quickly it changes. That's what I hear in this too. Like,
Hmm.
it's like weather or something, even though maybe weather doesn't change that fast and that many times in a day, but our body does
Hmm.
constantly regulate or dysregulate and then builds on that. And maybe there's a lot of habits too that we're just used to doing or not aware, like you mentioned. Like right now we're very focused, all of us, we're concentrated on what's being said, and we forget our bodies because we are in our minds and in this exchange. So let's talk about your hero's journey. You learned the breath work and the power of it, and what else did you notice? You talked about the community. How was that an aspect for you? Because you mentioned it. What did the community, the
Hmm.
friendships, the small teams, how was that?
Just what I noticed was unconditional love. And I think in my like childhood, I always, and even like up until I found Happy Jack Yoga, I always knew that love was somewhat conditional.
Mm,
There was like, I love you if, or I love you but, or I love you when. There wasn't like when my dog loved me. I
mm.
love you that you're home. I love you because like there's no just dogs love us unconditionally. And I think the Happy Jack yoga community has that. I love you unconditionally. You're here, you're showing up as messy as you are. That's okay. And this is like a story that I shared with Jack um, at the yoga conference. And I was like, I got to get this off my conscience. So when I was like 2017 to 20, I think 2020, I was heavily reliant on edibles, cannabis. And that was right in the middle of my like Happy Jack yoga, the 200 hour. So every day that I was coming, I was taking like 50 plus milligrams of cannabis just to be there with that energy to deal with my anxiety about being in this social environment and being vulnerable. I needed a crutch because I didn't have the tools quite yet. And like years later, I think in 2024, I was like, Jack, I'm like, I got to tell you something. He's like, what? I'm like, I was high all the time. He's like, what? He's like, I couldn't even tell. And there was no judgment. He's like, that's okay. Like, you showed up, you did the work. You just needed help to like, to be there. And he, like that unconditional love. And like right now, you're not judging me. That's the beauty of your community that you've created is there really is unconditional love. There's no judgment. You just accept people for where they're at, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And it is true. Like I'm trying to think about like how come there is no judgment? Because we, Jack and I, of course, we have no uh powers to decide what others think or say, because we're 20 plus people often in a circle, and sometimes we're hundreds. But there's something about when we come together from a heart-centered place,
Hmm.
almost like our hearts are more connected than anything else when we sit in the sharing circles or in a conversation like this. And we're just curiously holding space for each of us, kind of exploring what is true and what is revealing to us at this moment as a result of talking together. So Jack and I think we, the whole environment is born out of a desire to have an alternative place. And I know this to be true for Jack as well. And that is why I look to yoga in the years where I really needed it, was to have an alternative to what you were just describing of the conditional type of, or even just even if it's not conditional, it's kind of mechanistically set up like that. For
Hmm.
example, like when I was a young mother and we would have social engagements, it would mean we'd make dinners at each other's houses, and that was beautiful, and the kids would play together, but there was always wine involved, and then that means the next day you're a bit tired. And when that goes on for many years, it stops to be very, I don't know, like inspiring or regenerative. And I love seeing my friends. I don't mind having a glass of wine, but when that is the only way to come together, it feels less exciting. And so in yoga, I've found that we do other things. We breathe together, we move together, we explore scripture sometimes, or
Hmm.
look to yoga sutras and ancient wisdom, and see what how that lands in us and what we learn from it and what we learn from each other's shares. So nobody's teaching, nobody's like lecturing, not Jack, not me, not any participant. And that is, there's something magical about the way we come together as a community. And definitely, if it's not based in unconditional love, then there's no point to it. And then it's not as healing. But
Hmm.
on one hand, I think we weren't really aware, Jack and I, like we didn't know how to make that happen other than lead by example. And now it seems that that is the glue of the whole Happy Jack Yoga community. And if you were to talk to a marketing expert, for example, we wouldn't have known, like, hey, this is going to be our motto, and this is going to be our juice, and this is going to be the glue of our community. It just happened to be that way. And maybe that is the magic of yoga that is intangible. And yes, of course, there's yoga communities where this is not the case. I've definitely been in so many
Yeah.
yoga communities where I feel extremely self-conscious or even judged or like that. And I know what that feels like. And I think all of us, if we've been children in a school class ever, we've all felt sometimes that we're not included. And so this is our conscious effort of including everyone and everyone's experience with an open heart. So I'm just ranting here, trying to describe how come that happened, because it still is what makes Happy Jack Yoga Happy Jack Yoga. And we have, the yogi Anna Elfving, she was also on this podcast a couple of weeks ago. She's the one who said to Jack way back in Finland, she told us, you guys need to lead a 200-hour teacher training. And we were like, what? We didn't know if we had what it takes.
Yeah.
But she kind of enticed that and planted a seed in our heart. And then we did everything that it takes to kind of get certified and have Yoga Alliance approve the curriculum. And she says now, many, many years later, when she comes to anything that we do, she says, it's so beautiful because you're still doing the same things.
It's
And
powerful.
it is. It's like we didn't think of it in those terms. And that's why it's so fun to talk to you guys who took our trainings many years ago. So, bringing this back to you and your journey, Chris, thanks so much, first of all, for being so vulnerable and open and transparent about how difficult it was for you to even get to the 200-hour. I'm thinking it must have been somehow difficult if the edibles were such an important part of being able to complete the training, and you did amazing. I would have never known, and it certainly doesn't matter. What I too feel like mostly grateful for is to get to know you. And it's like those friendships that when they happen in the room, it feels like they're always alive, even if we didn't meet for so long.
Yeah.
So when you look back, how did the 200-hour like change your perspectives? Now you said you're teaching breath work, you've written a book. What did you like? What did the hero's journey give you? What did you make out of it? And while you answer, I'm going to look for your book.
Yeah. So the biggest one was self-regulation. So I learned how to self-regulate and calm my nervous system that was always agitated and hyperactive. So like I even as a child, I found out when I was 35 that I have ADHD. I had no idea as a kid. So I was unmedicated ADHD for like my whole life. And I always remember having anxiety, but I didn't know that it wasn't normal. I thought it was just something that everybody had. And I think um, the biggest takeaway was that I could do it on my own. I didn't need something external. And that was like when I finally like really felt that, like within those first early like mornings where you're just doing breath work and you're like, okay, I feel really good. That was the thing that basically like set me on fire, where I was on this mission to be like, okay, I'm gonna do this to the best that I can. And I'm gonna shed all the things that I've accumulated as crutches to help me kind of muddle my way through life. And that's what I was doing. I wasn't really fully living. I was like just muted all the time, just trying to get through. I wasn't actually like thriving and living. So
Wow.
when I,
What is it that made you come alive? The breath work gave you kind of like a taste then, or?
well, I just had this new passion where I was like, I don't need to rely on something external to make myself feel good, which I had been just addicted to. I was stuck in that loop. So it broke that loop for me where
Mm,
I was able to take a step back and be like, okay, if I really do this 100%, I won't need that, and that. That's helped me kind of. But I became this addict. But then I got to unbecome this addict through
mm,
breath work. And then like the way that like college works for like grooming paramedics is it's a big identity thing. Like you're the best, you're this god, everybody waits for you to show up, you save lives, blah blah blah. And it's toxic because when you can't do that job anymore, what do you have left? So they really strip you down and then create this false identity. So when that was kind of I wasn't able to do that and fill that ego anymore, there was an ego death. And I was like this like innate thing where I like helping people. I'm like, that's gone too. But then I'm like, I can help people learn how to self-regulate. This is a tool that I've gathered that's worked for me. It's not going to make me rich, but it's going to make me happy and fulfilled. Like it's kind of like my life's purpose. Like
mm.
I'm put on this earth to help others, but I needed to learn how to help myself first. And once I helped myself first and really took care of myself, now I have this abundance. So like when I do teach classes or like I have interactions with just like an individual, there's nothing that leaves me feeling empty anymore. It's
Mm.
just so fulfilling. I'm like, okay, they took away this beautiful gift and now they're gonna propel and they get to spread that on whoever they encounter.
Yeah.
So like I don't know. I'm always confused. I'm like, is that ego or is that just like being a good human being and serving your part? I'm like, I don't know, but I really enjoy it right now and I love giving back, especially to the community that's helped me so much. And I'm just grateful that I'm able to. Like I'm grateful that I didn't end my life.
Mm.
I'm grateful that I chose to heal and to like move forward and move through the pain and process it so that I could give back in a positive way.
Yeah. I love what you're saying there. And like when we don't know what to believe, like you mentioned, like I don't know if it's ego that I want to help people or what it is, but it's deeply fulfilling.
Mhm.
And you know how in yoga we talk a lot about dharma, like our all of us, we have a purpose and we have many purposes, not just one, I'm sure. But you just said how breath work and teaching it and giving this tool to others and let them use it for whatever they can need it for. And that is your life mission, is to share the tools that have changed who you are and given you your life back and then some, it sounds like.
Mhm.
So it sounds like a bit of a life purpose, which is dharma. And why I'm bringing that up is that when there is any type of confusion or like I don't know what to believe, then it's good to look to ancient wisdom sometimes, because that sometimes if it survived thousands of years and so many people's lives unfoldings, and this wisdom still exists, it makes
Mhm.
me feel like it can help us stay grounded and know that you know dharma is part of who you are, your soul's mission here. And we need an ego in order to function, but it sounds like it's not what's driving the show for you anymore.
Mhm.
And that sounds healthy and exciting and like integrated into what you're doing. So tell us about the book. It's called Breathe: How to Transform Yourself One Breath at a Time. It came out maybe a year ago. Is it true?
Yeah, in the winter, January.
Only
Yeah.
in January. Feels like
Yeah.
so long. Sweet.
So
So,
when I
mm,
I'll tell you, when I did the 200 hour with you guys, there was a part of it I remember where Jack asked me, okay, so like, what are your projects? What are you like? What are your goals? And I'm like, well, I'm writing a book. And he's like, when's it going to be done? And I said, 6 months. That was in 2019, 6 months. I was like really motivated. I was I was oblivious to the process. So I didn't know at that point that there was still a lot I needed to learn. And I needed to put it in this book because if I put it out back then, it would have been like it wouldn't have been what it is. I needed to go through a lot of grief. I needed to go through a lot of pain and healing still. And it's those kind of life lessons that I gathered, and I love analogies. So I kind of tried to put everything into analogies and then expand on how it kind of looked for me. And I just had fun writing it. I had a lot of fun. And it wasn't like I sat down and wrote a book. I just did Facebook posts like every day. I almost was doing it daily, and then I took them, put them into the book, and then expanded on them. Like put
Wow.
my little a little piece of flair on there.
I
But
love it.
I've had lots of good feedback, which is really cool.
Yeah. That's amazing. And so that is so typical of Happy Jack. Instead of asking you, what's your book about or something, like,
When is it going to be
when?
done?
Yeah, that's like the Tony Robbins in him that wants to create accountability and help you set kind of like a tangible goal so
Yeah,
that you know that it's going to happen. And it's so fascinating because Jack recently has been talking a lot about writing a book as well. So
I'll ask him when he's going to get it done.
yes, yes. When you see him next, when is your book going to be out in the world? So, what are you doing now daily? What is your life looking like? What does your routine look like? What does your family life look like? What do you do when you wake up?
So
What's it like to be you?
I'm really focused on the being rather than the doing now.
Yeah.
And it's been a hard shift with this ADHD, busy, 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 do, do, do. So I don't have the noise of the mind. So I've really worked on like settling the noise of the mind and changing the inner critic from being negative to positive and just really questioning it. Like, no, who put that voice in there? That's not me. I don't want that one.
Yeah.
So, like, I live in a subdivision in Aurelia. I I walk around everywhere with bare feet. People question me. It's a good conversation piece.
I love it.
I have a little dog. My son's like a teenager, so I'm learning what it's like to be a passenger with a new driver. And all of these things I know if I had my old software, they would have been like really, really challenging. I would have been reactive, explosive. It would have caused fights and chaos. But now it's more of like it's an observation. So he's driving, he goes through a stop sign. Like it's like, did you notice the stop sign? Well, no. Like so instead of being, oh, give me the keys, I'm fucking driving. It's a totally different narrative now. And the fact that Mindy's done it as well, we just talked about it yesterday on our drive. It was a great conversation, but she said, if we were to be doing this individually, it would be like addition, just one plus one plus one. It would be this slow process. But she's like, I'm doing it, you're doing it. She's like, it's like multiplication.
Yeah.
Whatever I learn, you learn. Whatever you learn, I learn. And we keep on learning together at this exponential rate. And I think like the fact that we can communicate in a healthy way now. You remember Taxi, my
Yeah,
service dog? So
I
she did
do.
the 200-hour with us. So
She
she
did.
passed away in January.
I heard.
And I think in the past, that would have been like a really hard thing to go through because I would have avoided my emotions with substance.
Yeah.
But what we did was we took like almost maybe 14 days where we set up on our family room floor, mattresses and pillows and sleeping bags, and we cried.
Mm.
And Mindy would cry, then I'd cry, and then we'd have a good couple hours, and then I'd cry, and we just kept on going back and forth, and we like actually allowed the emotion to flow through us rather than kind of store it and avoid it because of like fear. So I
Wow.
think all of these things that I've gathered have allowed me to live more consciously and less like a victim. So I'm like, well, I have agency over my life now. I don't have to choose suffering. I can I can heal through this. I can use it as a tool for growth. And it's not like this crazy, like intense, like I'm fucking happy all the time. No, I get sad too, but it's okay to be sad. And I let the sadness cycle through my body, and then it gives me space to move on. And
Wow.
it's really cool.
That is beautiful. And it sounds like you're bringing it back to where we began with the emotion regulation. And it sounds so healthy and holistic that you are able to feel all the feelings and that you don't need filters now to feel any of the feelings that life inevitably will bring, like grief. It sounds like you guys went through a really big grief in your family and you were able to do it together,
Hmm.
like Mindy said, like compounding and exchanging and learning together and feeling it together. Sounds like such a beautiful thing to be fully alive to what happens, whether it's joyful or sad. It is what life is, kind of these pulsations of
Yeah.
emotions that we navigate and go through,
I
right?
remember hearing, I think they're monks, and they said there's kind of two things in life. Be a master of your emotions. That's number one. Number two is help others.
Mm.
And emotional regulation, if you have that, like you're set. Like you are good for life. Because I think a lot of us are just struggling to learn how to operate this machine, this emotional being. And it's very complex. It can be. And we add to that complexity. But when you get to a point where you're ready to learn how to like navigate those emotions in a healthy way, life just becomes so juicy, so like joyful, and you want to feel everything because it's not a bad experience.
Yeah, I love that. And also how you said that it's not like you're overly ragingly happy all the time, but you can feel sadness and let it cycle through your body. It sounds like there's no avoidance,
Hmm.
right?
One of the so here's something that it just came to me one night. So I was laying in bed, Mindy was already asleep, and I was like, I'm gonna go to the darkest place in my mind right now. So I went to the last call that I had as a paramedic. I felt my heart rate come up, butterflies in my stomach, palms got sweaty. I was like, heart rate's pounding. I'm like, okay, like these chemicals are coursing through my body. Here I am. I chose this. And then I said, now I'm gonna see if I can like counteract this. I'm gonna like alchemize. So I'm gonna turn fear into love. I'm gonna see if I can transform these chemicals. So I took a gentle inhale through my nose, and as I did, I said, let it feel. So let my body feel this. Just give it permission. Feel it. So let it feel. And as I exhaled, nice and slow with pursed lips, I said, let it heal. So I did that for 10 breaths. Let it feel, let it heal. Let it feel, let it heal. And I was like, heart rate came down, palms weren't sweaty, butterflies were gone. My mind wasn't focused on that event. I was like, oh, this is magic. So then anytime anything happens now where there's an emotion that's intense, that is somewhat overpowering, let it feel, let it heal. Let it feel, let it heal. I just go right to that mantra. And sometimes it might take me 30 or 40 breaths. I'm going to take them anyway, so I might as well put them to use. And then all of a sudden, it transforms those chemicals to bring you back into that self regulated state.
Hmm.
It's really cool.
That is cool. Like you can go to the worst thing that ever happened. And in a way, that's the definition. Like if you look to Gabor Mate and so many before him who work with like physical, like what expressions the body takes when it comes to trauma, they often
Hmm.
say that it's energy that got stuck in the body that is circulating and kind of jeopardizing our energy and our nervous system and our ability to exist in the world. And now it sounds like you're able to let that energy circulate and heal and not be stuck in your nervous system. And it sounds like this makes you then also uh, available for life because you know that that you're safe in your own body, in your own mind, in your own breath, and that you don't need the filter that you needed in the past of whatever any substance.
Well, it takes away the fear.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I have power. Oh, like I can handle whatever happens.
Mm, I love that.
Yeah, it's super
Thank you.
cool.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing. That was such a beautiful description of how to deal with the layers of difficulty that came from traumas, from work injury, you could say, and then addiction and ADHD, and how you took your own power back and how you use it now.
Hmm.
That's beautiful. Thank you
Yeah, it's
for,
fun.
yeah, thank you so much for letting us into your world. There's no greater gift than getting to visit someone's, deep insights. So thank you.
Incredible. Well,
Thank you.
thanks for letting me give you that gift.
Thank you. And I'm sure everyone listening are agreeing. I see everyone smiling. Um, Chris will put the note in the notes your book if someone wants to get your book. Is there maybe an Instagram handle somewhere? Do you write still on Facebook? How can
Hmm.
people follow you?
So my new Instagram, I changed the name because it was confusing, but it's Chris Piva official. I think that's my
Right.
Instagram.
Hmm.
Facebook's my name, Chris Piva.
Great.
Yeah, you
We'll
can
put
find
that
me
in the
there.
notes.
And if you're interested, like if somebody's listening and they're like, "Whoa, I want to talk to this guy," write me a message. Like I'll write you back. Like I'm not untouchable or I'm not unreachable. I love talking. I love helping, and I still have boundaries. So like if you write me and I'm busy, I might not write you back for a couple days, but I will write you back.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yes. I love that. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. We send you and your family, Mindy, so much love. And also your new dog, we send her. Is it a her?
Do you want to know her name?
Yes.
Mala.
Oh, sweet.
So what we did was like Taxi was our last dog. She just had this random funny name. And then we're like, you know what? Like we've done a lot of healing. Let's give our next dog some spiritually significant name. So our son Braden's like, he said Taxi lived 9 years. He's like, 9 times 12. He's like, that's 108. There's 108 beads on a mala plus the guru bead. I'm like, okay, our next dog, we'll name her Mala. So
That's
she was like, Taxi lived a full cycle. She did what her job was on Earth well. She did incredibly well. And now we have little Mala. So
oh,
she like drives me into presence. Even when we were talking just now, like I gave her a Kleenex box to shred and she just shredded the whole thing. So I don't know if you can hear it on the audio.
I don't think so.
No, she's crazy. Here, let me show you what she did while
Because
we were
she's a
talking.
puppy. She was busy.
She's like, I need attention right now. So I gave her a Kleenex box.
Beautiful. Bless
Amazing.
her.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that you invited me on your show and that you and Jack have given our family so much.
Yeah.
Like beyond words, beyond measure.
Thank you. We can't wait to connect. I hope we meet sometime soon.
For sure, let's make it happen.
Hmm. Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you, everyone listening. So amazing. Look forward to seeing you sometime soon. Namaste, friends.
Namaste.
Namaste, Chris. Bye.